right, I think we're live. Welcome to the Conquering Everest podcast. Holly, how are you?
How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing well. That 1 minute countdown is never enough time because I try to use that just to check and make sure everything's streaming away, and it's never enough time. But
That's okay.
I guess it's
Seems to be
better than
working
30.
okay.
Yeah, I think we're good. The system's pretty self-contained, but. So I'm excited to talk to you, Holly. We did have a conversation prior, and we talked about a lot of different things, and I really can't wait to share your story with the listeners and watchers. So if you're on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch, feel free to comment. We should see, if everything works right, we should see your comments in the chat window. But Holly, as we get started here, before we deep dive into your story, maybe just introduce yourself to our listeners.
Sure. So I'm Holly Goodings. I am a women's empowerment coach as well as a Heal Your Life teacher through the work of Louise Hay. And all of that means that I empower women to be the best versions of themselves that they can be. And my tagline is kind of like when we start to heal the women, we can start to heal the planet. And so it all begins from within. And that's sort of generally what I do in a short burn or a short, little thing.
Yeah. So, when did you get into the coaching? What year did you? Because I'm looking at your timeline. I'm just trying to piece it together a little bit. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's start with 2011. That seemed to be when your life transitioned.
So. That's kind of 2011 is when I got the news that I had an incurable disease. And I didn't actually do anything about that until about 2016-ish. So in 2011, I was diagnosed with diverticulitis is the inflamed version of that. And they had said that my colon was so infected that I'd have to get removed and I'd have to carry a bag and all of that stuff. And that was back in 2011. And then I didn't have any other issues again until about 2016. And then in 2016, that's when I was pretty much given the choice to have the colon removed. That was the only choice I was given, honestly.
Wow.
And so I decided to just go on my own path and figure out a different way to heal that, to see what was possible anyway.
So in 2011, when they diagnosed you with that, I mean, what was I've never had too much bad news from my doctor, thank God. But when you hear that and they're like, hey, you've got this and you've got one option and we got to remove some parts. I mean, what was your mentality, or how was your mindset before the diagnosis, and how did it change after?
Again, like in 2011, when I was told about it, I didn't have, honestly, a very huge reaction other than like, initially I was like, oh my goodness. I think it was like just such shocking news that it didn't really even hit me until like 2016 when I like had a reoccurring thing happen. And that's when I was like, okay, we need to do this another way. So before that point, I was very traditionally, minded, educated, all of that stuff. I thought that you had to do whatever you were told you had to do. And if the doctor said there was no way to heal it, then there was no way to heal it, right? And so I think I kind of lived from 2011 to 2016 just kind of waiting until my colon had to be removed and all of that stuff. It was not on the forefront of my mind until 2016 when I had like another flare up, and that's when I was like, okay, this is like now or never. I need to figure it out, right?
And that was like caused you like extreme pain in the abdomen, or like would it just knock you out?
So like it's a pain, like down in your colon. And it means that it's been infected. So like it's little pockets in your colon. And so my colon was full of these little pockets. Like if you look at the diagnosis sheet, it says can't remember what it said, but it's like a term for like your entire colon is diseased, like needs to be removed, not even like a little part of it. They said that I could keep. And so it's like when food gets stuck in there, it gets infected because it doesn't have a way of getting out. And so then you have an infection in your colon, and that's what it is. So they just give you antibiotics. But it's super painful. Like I couldn't anyway. Like I had to crawl around when I was diagnosed. I had no idea what was happening. Can't walk, or I couldn't walk. And so generally it's they use antibiotics just to kill the infection, right? But not to actually cure it.
And remind me, because forgive me for not remembering, but at this time when the pain started, when it really started to affect you, did you have children that you were taking care of at that time too, or?
In 2016, yes, I did. I had 2.
Okay.
So both kids were born by then.
And what was there? Did that like scare them, or did they just kind of go with the flow? Did you put on a strong front? That's kind of what I do with my kids. I try to put on a strong front until I can't.
Yeah, I think when I was crawling around the house and I was like really scared and like went into emergency, my friend luckily was there with me, and I think she actually kind of like took them to the room. But yeah, I remember crawling up the stairs and being like, I'm okay, this is fine. Like, don't worry. Because they were really little. Like my youngest would not have been 1 yet. So yeah.
So they didn't quite process it fully at that time. So I guess that's kind of good that, for them that they, they didn't quite understand what was going on. But the doctors told you, hey, we gotta remove this. That would have left you with a colostomy bag, I'm assuming, is because they removed that part. It kind of, but you said no. You said, I'm not gonna do that. And what was
so? In 2016 when it happened again, and I had gotten the antibiotics and all of that stuff. And that was when I was pretty much, and I was diagnosed through like a barium enema. And I had gone through all of that stuff, like for testing purposes, and just the testing purposes, I hated it all. And so then when it happened again in 2016, it's like a switch just went off in my head. And I was like, this is not going to happen to me. I'm not getting my colon removed, and I'm going to find another way. And so the very first thing I did at the time was actually just take myself to I think it was an 8-day or 10-day full like detox raw food retreat thing. So it started as a detox, and then they gradually introduced like raw foods back in, but it was like a whole mind, body, spirit place. So included in the eating was also, and the detox was also, meditation, and we were right by the ocean. And so we had like fires, and there was acupuncture and massage, journaling, therapy, all of that stuff was with that. And so that's where I started trying to heal it on my own. And then the more I did that, the more determined I was because I started reading stories of other people that have healed from so many different things, right?
Yeah. And this was a personal decision of yours. You're not a medical doctor. You were a patient. You were doing what you felt was best for you. So I just want to throw that out there so nobody thinks we're a couple of experts that are giving advice. This is your story. So tell us what was maybe go in a little bit of detail about the retreat. What was that? How long? What meditation? You ate right? What all went on? Because I know there's been a couple times where I've looked at, there's a retreat that I'd like to go on, but it's out of country, so I got to kind of wait for COVID. But I don't know what to expect. I've never been on one. So what was that? That whole.
I didn't know what to expect either, and I honestly think they don't tell you what to expect for a reason. Because I think if you knew what to expect, you wouldn't go. That's like no, because the things that were involved in that were. I mean, it's intense when you're coming from a traditional standard American Canadian diet, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm Canadian, so I have to say Canadian. But and I was part of the standard, that standard diet. I ate a lot of stuff, the packaged foods and all of that stuff, right? So when you go there and they start you on a cleanse, the cleanse is like, it's really intense. It's you have to drink like a liter of salt water within, I think, a 20-minute time frame.
Well, that'll clear you
And
out.
then, yeah, and there's like 40 of you or 20 of you or something. I can't remember how many people were there, but
And
only
one
like,
bathroom, right?
yeah, like 6 stalls or something,
Oh,
or
gee.
maybe 4 stalls. And like, you don't get to know somebody well enough until you go on a retreat like that, let me tell you. Because when you're in the bathroom with like 4 other ladies all the time, you're just chatting, because like, what else are you gonna do,
Yeah.
right? So that was part of it. And then there was also, other things to just kind of help you detox and all of that stuff. But that was the worst part of it, for sure. Yeah.
And when you guys did the meditation, was it like a guided meditation? Did they just send you off into the forest and hope you would return, or?
No, we did some of that though too. They used to do like walks, so they would take us on walks in different areas, and they would have like different levels, because some people obviously reacted to the detox far more strongly than other people, right? So some people couldn't walk very far. So they would do that, but they would take us on like outdoor medications or meditations. And then they also had like a labyrinth outside of the hotel that we were staying in. So I don't know if you know what a labyrinth is, but it's kind of like a walking meditation where you kind of go in a circle until you get to the middle. And it's kind of like a ceremonial thing. And then you walk back out. And so that's kind of a meditation. And then we would just do some stuff outside, because it was in BC. So we were right on the ocean.
That'd be nice.
And then just like encouraged to do stuff on our own too, right? There was a lot of downtime just by ourselves, which was nice too, because you're going through, you're not your best self. There's a lot of cranky people, right?
Yeah, especially when you gotta drink the salt water and then you can't eat the food you want to eat. Because I'm sitting here
you can't eat any food.
As a big guy, I'm sitting here like, oh, yeah, man, I don't know. But did you do any journaling? Did they encourage that time? I guess where I'm getting at is whether it's meditation or journaling. What did you discover about yourself, if anything, during that time, or what came to your or what arose in your awareness that maybe wasn't there before?
I think the biggest thing for me was one of the therapy sessions I did. It was called a heart opening therapy session with like a psychologist. And it kind of brought up a lot of childhood wounding and stuff that was still present within my body and stuff. And now that I teach Louise Hay's work, I understand the connection between health and body and stuck things and all of that stuff, right? But at the time, I didn't really. So she kind of introduced me a little bit to that whole thing, and then found some of that stuck stuff that I had like never really even thought about for years. Like I was just keeping it down and hiding it and whatever, right? So I would say that was probably the most, it made me, after that session, it made me really look further into the mind, body, spirit connection, and how healing happens through that more so than anything else.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's the mind, body, spirit connection. If one is out of whack, then the wheel is wobbly. It's never gonna roll smooth. Can we dig down a little bit into your childhood or what you discovered, or is that off limits?
No, for sure. I think I'm trying to like remember into like what exactly came up for me at that time, but I've always had, like my childhood was pretty like abusive, traumatic, neglectful, that sort of thing. And so I think it was more just the connection that like I remembered some of the things that happened. Oh, one of the things that happened actually was that like when I was younger, sometimes to get me to be quiet or whatever, my mom would try to like smother me with something, and like to the point where I could no longer breathe. So I would kind of like pass out. that was not actually a memory that I had until she brought that out of me. And then the acupuncturist person that was there also kind of helped guide that a little bit further to heal it, right? But it was just kind of one of those memories that I had that was like, oh my God, I totally forgot that happened to me.
And it's probably all these years it's been shaping different thoughts, just the trauma of that, even though you may not make that link right away. I mean, it's like pushing a snowball down a hill, right? And it's just going to gain, get bigger and bigger and gain steam.
And it's the mentality that I took from just that, right? Like, like even after I realized that, it's like, this is why I feel I can't speak up for myself. This is why I can't speak my truth. It's why I have to be quiet and not loud. And like all of these things all connected to that, like one piece, right?
Right.
So yeah, it was pretty great to be able to.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably a good thing that voice came in and spoke out when it came to following the doctor or down your own path. Because I mean, if you would have just say, okay, I can't, my opinion doesn't matter, and next thing you know, you're under, you're getting surgery, and life is different forever.
Yeah, and I think that was the biggest piece in getting me to advocate for myself later on down the road, right? I was like, I need to be my own advocate. Nobody else is going to advocate for me except for me, so I need to do that for myself, and that really helped me get there. So, yeah, you had a good point there.
You mentioned acupuncture as part of the retreat. Is that something that you've continued on since, or was it just kind of a one-time deal? I just asked.
I have, even to this day, I have an entire team behind me. And I believe that anytime you're trying to heal, even if you're doing it the traditional medical way, you need to have a team behind you that supports you and believes in you. And that's, I mean, there's a lot of doctors and professionals that I had to fire along the way because they didn't believe that I could heal. And I was like, that's fine and that's okay, but like, I need somebody that does. And so I ended up finding a colon doctor guy in BC that did. And so that was my doctor. But on top of that, I also had tons of different people around me. So massage therapists, acupuncture, energy healers, Reiki, things like that. And then meditation, journaling was a big thing for me, art therapy. So it's not just a one thing fixes all type thing, or it wasn't for me anyways, right? Everybody has their own journey. But yeah, so it's still something I continue to this day.
I think, and you mentioned having a team behind you. And I think anytime you're trying to accomplish anything in life, mind, body, or spirit, having those people in your corner makes a big difference. And that was something that I didn't realize until I got older and I started working out with like kickboxers and boxers, and I started training. I mean, by this point, I didn't have any aspirations of going pro or anything like that, but the support and the love that you get in that environment is just so uplifting. You asked me to go to the gym and walk 30 minutes on the treadmill. I'm going to fight tooth and nail, but you asked me to go to the gym and work out with a bunch of cool people that really are there to help you. Yeah, I'll be there in a second.
Yeah. And I think that's actually a key piece, is because there's that quote, and I don't know who says it, but it's, you become like the top 5 people you surround yourself with, right? And so many of us, when we're going through this journey, the people that we are surrounding ourselves with can't support us in the way that we need to be supportive. And this is why it's so important to create a team. You have a coach, have a therapist, whatever you need. But you need to make sure that those top 5 people are people that are going to, like, you know, celebrate you and support you and help you reach your goals, and not just help you sit back and not do anything. Right. Yeah. It's a big deal.
And that I've heard that, and I live by it still today. It's and it's been attributed to a lot of different people. So who knows who first said it, but whoever first said it was a genius, because that is so true.
Let's say it was us.
It was it was you, Holly,
It was
Holly
us.
Goodings.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was you. I'm going to attribute it
Yeah.
to you. You
Yeah.
just all you got to do is put it on a meme with your name, and you're
Yeah,
good. Just share
exactly.
that out, and that's all you.
Yeah.
But yeah, the now I lost my place. I'm just, but no, the
Sorry.
top five. No, you're good. I've I've seen that in so many people's lives. My own life, I've seen other people. When I was young, I got rebellious, and there was a period of about 3 years that I was a wild child and got into some trouble. And when I look at the
Right.
people I was hanging around with, that's what they did. So yeah, that's so true. So
Yeah.
when did you? So in 2011, you were diagnosed. 2016, the pain became unbearable. The doctors wanted to remove parts, and you said no. You went to you were looking for a holistic way. Trying. It sounds like you various things, massage, Reiki, all that. When did you feel like? When did you turn the corner? Because you're here today and you're
Yep.
talking, and you don't seem like you're in
So
pain. So
2018. So from 2016 to 2018, I worked with all of those people, including my colon doctor guy, who is amazing, by the way. He was great. And I remember having conversations with him even about nobody's ever healed from this. We don't have any statistics or whatever, right?
right.
And I remember telling him, well, you don't have statistics because the way that you're telling people to heal it is to have their colon removed. You're giving them no other options. So they're either getting their colon removed or they're going their own way, and they're not coming back to tell you that. So like the statistics aren't accurate, right? And so then from 2016, I really worked on my mind, body, spirit connection. So I actually moved to a small island in BC
Nice.
to just like be by the ocean to do the healing. I followed the raw diet for the full time. And then I really connected with Louise Hay's work, and I did a lot of her stuff. I did a lot of meditation and journaling, and then working with all of those healers. And then in 2018, I decided along with my doctor that we would do a colonoscopy just to see where we were at, because he wasn't so sure.
Right.
But I was sure at that point. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, I have a feeling that it is either remarkably better or gone. Like, I just felt that. And so he did the colonoscopy, and I did completely not traditionally. I refused to take the anesthetic. I took meditations with me. I didn't follow like the proper food and medicine that you're supposed to take to clear your colon or any of that. I did it all my own way. And this is what was great about my doctor, is he was like, you know what, Holly, like, you can do it any way you want, but if you come in here and we do the colonoscopy and it's not empty, you got to do it all over again. And that's going to be a pain in the ass, right?
Yeah.
But that's all he ever said to me. He's like, but do it however you want. And so I did it my own way, and I went in and it was fine. And there was even a point where like it got a little bit painful, and the anesthesiologist was like, please just let me give you the anesthetic. And I was like, no. And it was my doctor that actually advocated me at that moment. And he was like, you said you didn't want it, or she said she didn't want it. So let's just try to reposition her and see if that works first. And it did. So this is why it's important to have your doctors on your side, or your healers, or whatever you're using, right? Because they'll advocate for you in the moment when you're at your weakest, right? Because I probably would have said, sure, give it to me, because I was in so much, like, it hurt, right? And it was my doctor who knew I didn't want it that stood up for me. So yeah, it was that. And then I went and did my Louise Hay training to become a Heal Your Life teacher after that. And that was just another big step along the thing. And then ever since then, that's just kind of been my focus, to help people realize that they are their own experts, and to listen to your inner voice, because it knows so much more than what you're told that it knows, right? Because I have heard stories, even to this day, I don't know anybody who has healed from what I've healed from. I know there's people out there, and if there are, come talk to me. I would love
Yeah,
that.
we got the hookup.
Because even like my doctor in the small island in BC, she would give my name and number out to people with it, just so they could have, somebody as an example, right?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, to this day, I've heard stories of miraculous things that have been cured. Like one lady had 2 weeks to live from terminal cancer and she turned it around. And it's all mind, body, spirit, food connection, right? What you're putting into your body. Yeah, it's just amazing to just meet these people that have done it, right? And just know you're so much more capable sometimes than what you're led to believe, right?
Oh yeah. And I think that's why meditation is so important, is to get rid of the external world and just connect with yourself. And there's days you wake up and your body says, nope, I want to rest, rest. And then that you don't have to worry about.
Absolutely.
Don't feel like you're having an unproductive day, because
the
next day is going to be super productive. At least that's been my experience.
That is the experience. Yeah.
Now I have my notes here, and I'm notorious for chicken scratch. So, and you'd think by now I would take cleaner notes, because every time I'm like, what was I writing? But I have here. So you've got 2018. You felt healed from the colon disease, and I don't even know if I could pronounce it, so I'll just leave it at that. But then the universe was kind of like, wait, there's more, right?
Yeah.
So what was your bonus round?
My bonus round for that was going and doing my Louise Hay teacher training, and then going and doing a couple of different coaching programs, because I knew that so many people out there needed to know that there was other people that healed, but also just to know the strength that they have within. Because I don't think we're raised in a society right now where we're taught that all of our answers are we've got them. Like we were born with them. We were born with that inner voice for a reason. And for so long, we are pushed away from listening to it and told to listen to all of these other people, whoever they are, right? And so it was like a pivotal moment for me to be like, we need to teach people this. Like, even if it can help one person, like, I'm good, right? Because if you can help one person from not going and getting like a surgery maybe that they don't need, and I'm not advocating to like, I'll just say that right now, right? Like, if you need it, you need it, and that's fine.
Personal stories.
Yeah, totally. It's just my story. But sometimes surgeries come with a whole lot more risks, and even my doctor will tell you this, than just changing up your mind, body, spirit, food connection, right? But some people just don't want to do it, or for whatever reason, and then the surgery is the only option, or they need the surgery, obviously. But yeah, I think it's just that was my purpose, was to help lead other people into their inner wisdom.
Was food an addiction for you? I have written down here family history of addiction. So it sounds like, and I think when we talked, there were some current concerns about medications and different things like that because of that. But and I don't know if it was caused from the foods and everything that you were eating, or just an imbalance of, stress hormones. Who knows how these things pop up? But what would you say, you were addicted to food at the time, or?
I would say yes, and I would say most of us are addicted to food in some way or another. It's very often used as a reward system when we're children. And I always go back to remembering, like, even, I would bring I don't do this anymore, but when I was first a mom, I would bring my kids to McDonald's, because they got the play area or whatever. And I would witness other moms like saying, you can't play until you finished your chicken nuggets or your French fries or whatever. And I remember, even though I wasn't aware at the time, but even in the back of my mind, I was like, just thinking, like, we're forcing our kids to eat this. We all know that the food's not good for us, right? but we're forcing our kids to do that before they can go and have fun, before they can go play, before they can listen to their inner wisdom of what they want to do, right?
Right.
And it was just this kind of light bulb where I think a lot of us are food addicted. Yeah, I think I still probably am in some ways. It's a way to
It's a
numb
comfort.
and cope.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'm an emotional eater,
Yeah.
for sure. And unfortunately, all emotions I like to eat: happy, sad, mad, glad, whatever. Hey, let's break out. I'm better than I was, but
yeah, and that's the thing, right? When we start healing these parts of ourselves and our childhood wounding, then we can start healing those parts too, right? Those addictive patterns of how we handle stress, which for a lot of us was eating or whatever, right? And so,
yeah,
I mean, during that whole journey, I lost, 80 pounds. And I don't really mention that to a lot of people because that's not the focus for me, but it
right.
becomes the focus for a lot of people. And so I'm careful about that. But, and that was just because I loved myself. Honestly,
Yeah.
it was because I wasn't allowing myself to do that kind of stuff anymore. Right. So, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the anxiety. You wrote a book,
Sure.
right, about
I
anxiety.
did.
So
Yeah.
let's. I wrote down in my notes, nervous system shutdown.
Yeah.
So what
So
was that
that's
like?
so that's something I went through as soon as all of this healed itself. Then my body kind of went through like a nervous system, breakdown, complete breakdown.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty scary because I had up until that I had done so much work. I had moved, I had like
Right.
changed my diet, I had done all of this stuff, and yet here I was experiencing something I've never experienced before, right? And again, I had tests done and they could never find anything. But
Yeah.
essentially it just like one day within a 4-hour period, my body just shut down. I couldn't get out of bed for like 8 days straight. I thought I was going to die.
Wow.
My heart was racing. Yeah, I just like I couldn't. I got dizzy. I had like vertigo. There was just all of this stuff happening at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and then that took a while to heal from too. But I've come to the realization with that's after all of that stuff that I did, and because of my family history of like the only time we can do well or have people love us is when we're in a state of sickness. This is something
Mm.
that runs in my family. It's a belief that runs in my family, which I've now become aware of.
Would
So
you
it was
call
kind
that
of
a? Would you call that a victim mentality, or is it
um
not?
yeah, I
Or is it?
think if you realize it, it's a victim mentality, right? Like I think a
Yeah.
victim mentality is when you realize it and you're still using it as a reason to not
Gotcha.
heal. I didn't have the knowledge of that at all until this all happened. And it was kind of a realization of like, I was doing so good. And my
Yeah.
body was like, wait, how are we going to get the love? Where are we going to feel worthy now? And so it just like completely shut down again, right? And so that was a great awareness. That's like, I think everything we go through brings lessons.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And the whole point is to learn those lessons, right? Or recognize them. And that's the first step. And nobody's ever going to get there. There is. We're constantly a work in progress, right?
Right.
So yeah, that was my experience with that. And then same thing, I took myself away to a healing center for 3 weeks
And you were
for that one.
studying. You were studying the through Louise Hayes at that time, right? I mean, you were kind of
Yeah.
already putting those wheels in motion.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
why I say it comes back to like, you were so often seeking love from something or someone else, and we need to
Yeah.
get it from us. And so taking myself away was such a, because I had young kids. I could have made all the excuses in the book for not being able to go. And
Yeah.
it was expensive and all of this stuff, right? But I made a way out of no way because I knew from all of the work that I had done, this was a great opportunity for me to show up for myself, right? And
Right.
that's what it's all about, is finding that within us instead of seeking it from other people. And as soon as I made that choice, the healing began, because I wasn't seeking worthiness or love from anybody else. I knew that I could get it from myself, right? And obviously that wasn't an overnight
Yeah.
thing, and it's still something I work on, right?
Oh
So,
yeah. And
but yeah,
that's I'd say that's kind of where the spirit aspect kicks in a little bit. Spirit mind, because it's kind of a, I think your spirit and your mind are always, your conscious mind are always at odds with each other, right? Because your conscious mind is trying to justify, like you said, well, I can't go to this retreat, it's too expensive.
yeah,
But but your spirit could talk and say, yeah, it's expensive, but you're either going to pay now or you're going to pay later. And paying
yeah,
later might not be what you want to do, because, who
no,
knows, you end up in a hospital or whatever.
yeah,
I know my own battles with anxiety and depression, it came on, and it hit really, really hard for about a little over, well, almost probably 2 years. And then once I consciously made the decision, okay, I've got to figure this out. I can't keep living like this. I was able to take the steps, and then almost
yeah,
overnight, I went from depressed and missing out on life to, it was like I was reborn. I'm like, hey, I don't have time to sit. I got to go. I've got so much to do. So,
yeah.
um,
And that's such a key point that you mentioned, because sometimes it can be that quick for people. As soon
yeah,
as we switch the narrative in our head and the stories and the victim mentality, and we can't do better and all of that stuff, as soon as we switch that around, sometimes it feels like a miraculous
yeah.
healing takes place, but really it's your mind, body, spirit that's like now connected, right? Like you've
Yeah.
done it. So
And
yeah,
I
everybody's got their own
know
timeline.
there'll be people out there says, hey, that's not, depression. It's a chemical imbalance. And hey, I'm not taking that. Yes, it
Yeah,
is. It's a lot of different things, but I truly, with all of my being, believe no matter how difficult the circumstances in one's life, we have the power mentally, physically, and spiritually to change that. Like you said, change the
yeah,
narrative. And I think where I think where that really came to light for me is while I was in the thick of dealing with depression. I said, okay, I got to get out of the house. I got to do something. So I volunteered at a soup kitchen, and I
mm,
would get an opportunity at lunchtime to talk to all these folks that are either living on the streets or living in, very poor conditions. And they
yeah,
would be laughing and joking and having a good time. And I'm like, how,
yeah,
you know, here I'm living in a, home. I've got a job. I've got all this stuff going on. And I'm just, in a bad mood. And here you are living on the streets, coming to
yeah,
a soup kitchen to get your meal. And you are just, they were so positive, and not all of them, but most of them. And I, it just, your circumstance, your mind can definitely has a lot to do with your attitude. And I think once you get
yeah.
that straight, anything is possible.
And I think
So
sometimes we're chasing something. We're chasing the Joneses, and we're trying to, and it's just putting stress on our body. And that's what even depression, they say it's deep rest. Depressed
right.
is deep rest, right? And like our body is just craving deep rest to stop the hamster
Yeah.
wheel and trying to do all of this and all of this and all of this, right? And I have a background in social work. So I worked with people just like you're talking about, like they'd through horrendous things in their life, and somehow they came out of it. And like most of us think that we could never go through something like that and get out of it, right? um
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just sometimes it's just we're trying to be too fast and achieve too much when really all we need is to rest.
Yeah, and there's a lot of layers to it. Like you said, we are in a constant state of evolving
Yeah,
throughout our lives, our time here on Earth. Right, you're never going to be 100%. Um,
no,
Coaches need coaching too, and
yep,
therapy and different things depending on different waves of life. But let's talk a little bit about your book. So you wrote the book. The only way out is through, and it's like a toolbox for anxiety free living. um,
in
let's
30
talk a little
days.
bit
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
Sure.
Well, we know
So
what prompted it, but what could somebody expect by reading that book?
So that book, it gives you 30 days worth of new tools that you can put into your toolbox for when you're going through anxiety or even depression. A lot of people have used it for depression as well.
Mm.
And it's just things that have worked for me or research that I have done that has worked for others or whatever it is. And it just kind of gives you that support to give you something new to do every day. And it's take what you want, leave what you want. I'm not a big believer that you need to follow my steps and this is the way to do it. There's 30 things, do 5 of them every day, like do whatever. That's why there's 30. So you can pick and choose. And I actually have an online course that goes with that book as well if people want extra support. Because like you were saying before, sometimes you just need that person in your life that you know is there to support you and that you can check in with and that's going to hold you accountable, right? So yeah, there's an online course for that too where you get the book for free. Otherwise, it's on Amazon, just as
What's
an ebook.
let's go ahead and promote that site because I think that'd be beneficial to folks. I'll make sure I include all the links in the description, especially when this gets uploaded into the podcast format. But do you have any links that you'd like to share out? People, if there's probably going to be somebody saying, "Hey, I want to learn more." So
if you go to innershift.ca, innershift.ca, everything is on there. So all my courses, a link to the book, who I am, coaching, everything is on that site. And then I'm also on Facebook and Instagram under Instagram's Inner Shift Coaching and Facebook's just Inner Shift, I believe. So
I'm going to give something a try here just to see if this will work. Let me share my screen. We'll share this. Well, this probably is not going to work because I have multiples. I was going to try to pull up the page so they can look at it, but like I said, I'll make sure I have the links in the description below. But yeah, it's got an email, a nice bamboo water fountain image there. So check it out.
Brings you peace.
Yeah, no, definitely. Did you ever see yourself? I mean, if you think back to 2011 when everything started going down for you, did you ever imagine yourself writing a book, or was that like surprise? You're an author.
No, I did not ever imagine myself writing a book. Although when I think back on it now, when I was a child, I used to like to write. But there's no way that I would have thought that I would have been an author. No. But when something comes to you, you just want to share it and help as many people as you can, right?
And that's common theme that I've had with a lot of folks that I've had conversations with, and they're like, hey, I never thought I was going to write a book, but I had to after I went through fill in the blank. And that's something I always tell people. You got a story, you got to tell it, you got to share it. In book, podcast, I don't care, whatever. There's so much power in a story. And I'm sure millions of people are going to watch this video on YouTube. No doubt in my mind, at least 1 million. And maybe 12 resonate. Well, that's, hey, like you said earlier, just that one, you got to find that one person that needed to hear your story that's going to change their life. And who knows, that person could be the next major influencer online and shift a whole lot of lives. So
exactly. Yeah. And that's my belief. Like whether you believe in God or spirit or creator or whatever, everybody comes into your life for some sort of purpose. And if it is just one person, that person may be exactly what you said, right? It was exactly meant for that one person. And that's why the gift was given to you in the first place. So,
right.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your coaching. Do you have information on your website about the coaching, or is that, let's talk a little bit about that. I mean,
sure. So like I said at the start, I'm a women's empowerment coach. So I help women get more clear on what their purpose is in the world, and also just learn how to heal and let go of things that they're just holding on to so that they can live their best life in the world and be present in the world in the way that they're they were born to be, right? And so we do a lot of healing work. We do a lot of inner child work. We do a lot of healing work. We do a lot of celebration of self, a lot of self-care, that sort of thing. And so there's different packages. You can do 3 months or 4 months or a 6-month VIP package. So those are the different options for that.
And is that available anybody remote?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, good.
Yep. And we talk like through Marco Polo. So that's like a 1-hour coaching call every week. And then also if you need support, there's a Marco Polo app that we can talk through as well. Just because sometimes we don't have those people in our lives that celebrate us, and you need to share with somebody, and you need somebody that's going to hold you accountable and check in, right? Did you finish that thing that you wanted to do or whatever, right? And so hiring a coach has been life-changing in my own life, and I highly recommend it to so many people, because sometimes sometimes it's just the accountability and your whole life changes, right? So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's coaching makes a world of difference, because it's funny how the human mind works, because you may hear something 100 times and then one certain person says the exact same thing that you've heard 100 times, and it finally, the light goes off and you're like, oh, okay. And that's happened to me on a couple of occasions, to where it's like, okay, I just needed to hear it from you. Apparently everybody else, who cares? But you finally broke through my stubbornness, and it got me. So, so the book's available on Amazon.com, your website. We're going to make sure we have that available for everybody. And, as we approach the end of our time together, I guess I'll throw one last question out. Like I said, I don't like to script too many questions. Usually the first question and the last question are the only ones that I have scripted. And so I'll say, and this is an open-ended question, do you have any parting words of wisdom for the folks that are tuning in to this live, or even to the podcast that'll be up after the fact? If you could.
I think the biggest thing that I would leave people with is to start listening to that inner voice. A tool that you can use that has worked for me, that I actually learned from an author named Sark, S-A-R-K. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she calls it like listening to your inner, what does she call it? Your inner wise self. And so it's journaling, and it's like whatever's coming up for you, dear inner wise self, why am I feeling this way or whatever? And then, love Holly. And then you like sit in like meditation for a couple minutes, and then you write, dearest Holly. And the way that you recognize whether it's her or ego is because she will respond in like a sweet, loving way, whereas your ego is just like, how your ego responds versus like your biggest, wisest self, right? And that has been like one of the biggest things to retrain myself how to listen to that inner voice, is by writing it down on paper and asking it questions and letting it answer. And then also trust that you are the expert of your own life, your own body, your own mind. Nobody else can be the expert of you except for you. So.
Yeah. Okay. So I lied. There's going to be one more question, because just something that you said there resonated. And I haven't shared this out with anyone else. So, breaking, you're going to hear it here first, but, so I do meditate, and that's an important, I'm not super disciplined at it, but I'm getting better and more disciplined at it. But one day, as I'm sitting, I'm getting quiet. I'm just being present in the moment. So I had this, I don't know if you want to call it a vision or what, but I saw the entire world, not just the world, but the solar system, everything that encompasses life. I saw it as an energy, right? And if you can tap into that energy, you have unlimited. You have the answers. It's just a matter of tapping into a I don't even know how to explain it. Just a certain kind of flow of energy that finally will awaken.
Like a vortex?
Maybe, or yeah, it hit me so weird that when I kind of came out of the meditation, I'm like, man, that, like, I had a marker and I didn't have anything to write on, so I just drew it on my wall. I drew a picture of, like, I could paint over it later, but I just drew
Yeah.
this picture. But I guess all that to to say, do you believe, like, we all have the answers we need to everything, mind, body, and spirit? It's just really
Yep.
a matter of tapping into that invisible, like that subconscious
Yep.
level of existence. Yeah, it's because I
Yeah,
think we
and
all,
that's some of the stuff I teach in coaching is giving you the tools. So the journaling and the journeying, even you can go through journeying sessions with yourself, right? There's so many other things that it's really being able to connect to that part that we haven't connected to, some of us, for ever, right? Probably since we were
yeah,
babies. So I love that you drew on your wall. I think that's fantastic.
yeah. I was like, I got
Let
to,
it out.
I got to write it. Or I was gonna forget. It's like a dream, if you wake up and you don't, like, write it
Yeah.
down right away, you kind of forget it. So, and it still doesn't make total sense to me. It's just, it was something that happened in the moment
Yeah.
of
And sometimes
silence.
you're
And
only given little pieces at a time,
yeah.
and just trusting that every piece will come, right?
But if you believe, believe the fact that we can't or haven't tapped into all of our, um, all of being able to use our mind at 100% capacity. But if you think about
Yep.
it from a kid, you get these little nuggets as you grow up. Whether you're, maybe you had an abusive, toxic, relationship or family situation. Well, your mind is going to store bits and pieces of that, good and bad. It's going to store the
Yep.
truth and the lies. And then that happens all throughout our life. But once you can finally just learn, and it takes time and it takes patience, but once you can kind of learn to push out the external noise,
Yep.
those pieces start to unravel and reveal themselves. But anyways,
Yep.
it's something on my wall right now. I haven't painted over it yet. I'm hoping that sometime in meditation it's going to give me the second piece of it so I can put it
Right.
together. But
Yeah.
I'll take what I can get when it gives it to me. So,
Yeah.
well, Holly,
That's
it's been
awesome.
a pleasure having you on the show, and your story is inspirational. I mean, I can't imagine what the pain felt like. I complain when I get a sore back. I can't imagine if my intestines or the colon. But you came back from that. You dealt with an anxiety, and you've created this book, and you're coaching, and you're making a difference in this world. I always end every one of my podcasts with aim high, be courageous, and do amazing things. And I think you're doing amazing things. So appreciate you being on the show and sharing that with us.
Right back at you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, hang tight. We're gonna have a conversation offline, but I'm
Okay.
gonna go ahead and end the stream, and we'll talk in just a minute.
Sounds good.